as a woman, we've got a few extra fun things to contend with.
Self-centeredly and vainly, I just didn't want to be a woman with a stoma bag.
How was that first period after surgery?
So it just really took me a long time to build up like the courage to do a bag change. So whenever I actually had to deal with my period at the same time, I was like, there's so much going on.
And it's bonkers, isn't it? Because you think, you've got a stoma bag, you still got active UC in your rectum, and then a period sprinkled on top.
Yeah.
Before I had the stoma bag, I was worried about my cesarean scar. Now I've got a stoma bag. Nobody notices the cesarean scar. It's definitely the stoma bag that takes precedence.
So my one piece of advice for someone who has a new partner is to be open and honest and talk about it. I'd say from the get-go.
It showed that that person wasn't the right person, and I credit my stoma for shining a light on that and getting me to where I am now with someone who is what sounds like your people.
I'd be lying if I said that fertility and getting pregnant with a stoma is not something that I worry about on the daily.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Pouch. We are here for International Women's Day and I am joined by these beautiful ladies and we are here to talk all things women's health. So the guys have had their special and they absolutely smashed it, and we are here to have our time to talk all things women. So we are going to kick things off with when you had your surgery, was there a conversation about how it would affect you as a woman? Jo, did you have that conversation?
No, I don't remember ever having conversations around that. There wasn't an awful lot of information about how it would affect me at all, but it was quite kind of short notice. So my surgery, as I think it was for some of the others, was an emergency surgery. So I only knew very shortly before I had the surgery that I was going to need it. So I had had lots of different types of medication, tried various different things, including biologics and transfusions, but kept having to go back to the steroids because that was the only thing that was keeping me okay. And every time I tried tapering down from those, I was getting poorly again. So surgery became the only option. But I only knew that I was told I needed to have surgery the following day. And then my surgery kept getting cancelled, so it actually ended up happening a few days later. But yeah, not a lot of time to prepare and certainly not much information about what life would be like afterwards.
Yeah, and how, I suppose, as a woman, we've got a few extra fun things to contend with as opposed to men, and they do get affected. And we asked our followers if they had any questions to ask you guys, and there were so many, weren't there? And I know you, Poppy, had the same about fertility and about how it affects your periods and stuff. And like for you, it was very short notice for you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think, so I was told, I'd been in hospital for 3 weeks, and I at first, I genuinely believed that I'd leave the hospital with just another new medication that would fix me. Yeah. And then I was told, look, tomorrow you're going to have stoma surgery, otherwise you're not going to leave the hospital alive. And I think, looking back, I didn't really care about what the future complications would be as a woman. So it wasn't ever questions I'd ask. Self-centeredly and vainly, I just didn't want to be a woman with a stoma bag because I didn't want to change my body. I was so scared that how I would be perceived with a stoma bag. Yeah. And I don't think that I ever had time to get my head around that, let alone ask questions that would change and affect my life in the future.
Yeah, and with the short notice, because you're the same, like you, I suppose if you're trying to get your head around, oh my gosh, I'm having this surgery, you're not going to think, oh, actually, I need to ask all these other questions. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, not at all. I think whenever you're told like short notice, like I remember like that experience, I just thought like my whole world was crashing down around me. Yeah. And I literally got my camera test on the Thursday and my surgeon has said, if I don't get this emergency stoma surgery tomorrow, which was Friday, that I wouldn't see Monday. And I was like, in my head, like I was like, is that really worst case scenario? I just feel like when you're going through that pain as well, you just continue to go through it. You don't realise how sick you really are. Yes, and I was like, I will actually like question a surgeon whether like my surgery really is like that severe. Like I just didn't believe I needed emergency surgery. And again, I was just told I needed that surgery. Wasn't sure of the aftermath or how all that was going to be. And I remember actually with my follow-up appointment, my surgeon has said that, you know, like I'll need a second surgery, which is the Barbie butt surgery. And I was like, sorry, what? This is all new information to me. Like I was just so naive to it all.
Yeah, and it's such a shame, isn't it, that you felt that you were naive to it all when actually it's just because you weren't given the information and you weren't, and like, you didn't have a lot of time, like you all weren't given a lot of time, but also would it have changed things if someone had a bit more of a conversation with you?
I think it wouldn't. I remember waking up and saying like I'd got over ulcerative colitis, and I remember a nurse being like, no, you still have it in your rectum, like it's still there. And I was like, what do you mean? Like I've gone through this hell. I now have something that I never ever wanted and I still have it. And like I was always under the impression that a stoma bag was a cure, and I feel like in my case it isn't. And I just feel like, again, I was very naive going into it thinking, right, I'll have this done and then that'll be it. And I can't believe like 4 years on, I'm still having symptoms.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, that it's not like stoma bag, fixed, skip off into the sunset. And again, if those of us that post online and, you know, and do positive stuff, it's very easy, isn't it, to look at that person that looks confident with their bag and think, oh, well, their life looks great. Why isn't mine like that? But that's a tiny snippet, isn't it? That's a tiny moment. And that's not the reality of it all, is it?
And it takes time too, doesn't it? I think, and it'll take different people different amounts of time to get to the point where it feels okay and you're comfortable and confident with it. So it's just a bit of a journey to go on, isn't it?
We all put ourselves online and we all show the highs and the lows, and we're quite, you know, like Poppy, I'll go to you, like you're very raw and you're very real on yours. And I mean, I think you said before, you get messages, you get a lot of messages, and like, I don't know about you, Jo, you're quite new to it, aren't you? I suppose you're the newbie of the group.
Very new.
How are you finding it? Because this is a whole new world for you. And I suppose for someone who's new to it and wants to put themselves out there to connect with people, what advice would you give them?
So I started doing it on impulse about 3 weeks ago, so it's really new.
Literally so new. I'm so excited for it. It's so exciting. It's a huge deal. Like, you should be so proud.
Thank you. That's really kind. It's been genuinely, so far, everything's been really positive, and I've got stuff out of it that I wasn't expecting to. People have been so kind and generous in what they've shared with me and the advice they've given. And I'm at a point where I'm trying to kind of be consistent with fitness and build up my strength and help myself to just feel a bit more capable in my body. And so there's bound to be the occasional challenge with that, whether it's related to stomas or not for people. And some of my more stoma related stuff is quite niche. It's quite specific questions and queries to come up with as you're going through that. And the community that I now have online through social media has really helped with, you know, people coming forward with advice and support and suggestions and just a bit of kind of cheerleading along the way, which has been really positive for me so far. So all good for me.
That's lush. One question that the followers asked a lot about was periods. And how was that first period after surgery? How did that go?
Awful.
Awful? How? You want to share?
Yeah, I just feel like after my surgery, I would have sat like at the bottom of my bed, really like contemplating changing my bag. I find that so difficult. Like I would have sat there, an hour would have passed, and I was like, this is something I cannot do. So it just really took me a long time to build up like the courage to do a bag change. So whenever I actually had to deal with my period at the same time, I was like, there's so much going on in like that small area. And obviously like using tampons, I was like, I just feel like my body is just literally just going through the wars at the minute. As well, I don't know if it's after my surgery, but I feel like I would get like a lot of phantom pains.
Yes.
I do feel like now when I'm on my period, that's a lot worse. I know a lot of my ulcerative colitis is in my rectum anyway. So my disease is still very active there. So I don't know if that makes it worse when I'm on my period. But yeah,
How do you deal with that? Cry.
Yeah, a lot of time, like I do spend like a lot of time just sitting in the toilet. Like even my partner will be like, you're just sitting in the toilet. But sometimes I do that to feel normal. Obviously with having a stoma bag. Like I just feel like when I go to the toilet as well, I still pass like a lot of mucus and I'm going to until I get my second surgery, which is normal. So yeah.
Did any of you get told about rectal discharge?
Yeah. So, and I was told it was really normal.
Yeah.
And for a year after my surgery, I like had it quite a bit, and it was the colour that it should be.
Yeah.
And then my disease came back in my rectum, and then it was what I noticed every time I had my period, I would have blood from my rectum.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my goodness, all these symptoms are back now.
Yeah.
And then you would notice a pattern where every time it was my time, every month, my symptoms were worse.
Gosh. What about you, Jo? You're a bit different, aren't you, with all this?
Yeah, so I was told that there was a chance that I still carry on getting some discharge from my rectum after the surgery, but I had the impression, and I don't know whether it's just the impression I took from what I was told rather than what I was actually told, that there was a chance, didn't sound like it was a big chance, and that it would probably right itself within a matter of a few weeks. That was what I'd understood. But it didn't. It continued until I did have the Barbie butt surgery, which I had a couple of years later. Yeah. But I also felt a little bit hoodwinked because I'd had the surgery to make me better, and I felt like I had a stoma bag and still a lot of the symptoms that I'd had before I'd had the surgery. Yeah. It felt like I had a bit of the worst of both worlds for a little while until I'd had the kind of second surgery.
Yeah.
And it's bonkers, isn't it? Because you think you've got a stoma bag, you still got active UC in your rectum, and then a period sprinkled on top, and like, and people must just think like, oh my goodness, how are you doing all that? And the truth of it is, because we have to just
you
put
can't
our big
stop
girl
it.
pants
It's
on,
happening,
and we've got to go, which we've done for like ever since we were diagnosed with this awful disease. And I just think, unfortunately, when you do speak to a consultant or something, there is that expectation where, look, you've just got to get on with it.
Yeah, and that sucks.
It does,
because that's not what you want to hear, is it? And I don't know, if you're having a day where your output is more, and then if you're on a heavy period from having 2 kids, my periods are so heavy. I don't know whether it's a combination of surgeries or pregnancy or whatever, but they are crazy heavy. I feel like I've been stabbed for 3 days. They're shorter, but they're so intense in the pain. And then when when you shower or whatever, but at the end of the day, if I'm having a shower, and I've got to psych myself up to go, right, now I've got to change my tampon. Now I've got to sort a pad out. Now I've got to change my bag. And I feel like my other half is just going, in the shower, into bed, done, and then I'm like, it's an hour routine.
Yeah.
And I've got to psych myself up for it. And it's draining. It's so draining.
And I think it does go back to, because I was thinking, like, how do we properly look after ourselves around our period? And then I was thinking, do you know what? I actually don't know much about a woman's cycle. And I think it goes back to being in like high school and in school. Like, my mum taught me about periods, but she taught me very much like that base layer of you have a period, this is why, this is how you cope with it. Like in school, we aren't told about the cycle and what happens at each stage of the cycle and how to care for ourselves around that cycle. And then you have a stoma bag and they've messed with all your insides around that area. And again, like, how do you care for yourself when you're going through something that every woman has to go through? And I feel like that basic knowledge is lacking in education, because we aren't told about the different cycles, how our hormones rage and then drop, and what we need. And I think it's really important. I think it does go back to that. I wish I knew every stage of the cycle. I'm not even confident now that I could tell you. And like, I've had a period for so many years. And I think it goes back to that, like learning about it and how to look after ourselves at each stage.
Yeah, no, that's really valid. And I suppose there are lots of apps now, aren't there? You can track things and your symptoms and all that. But I don't know about you guys, but I find all the apps you could use, all the supplements, I find it quite overwhelming. And I don't know where to start. I don't know what to use. And then you've got people advertising all this stuff. And then you're like, oh, do you actually like it? Or is it because you're getting paid? And it's like, it's a lot, isn't it? And when you're on social media sharing about stuff like us, our feed is naturally going to curate it so that you are shown all of this stuff. So, I mean, what tools do you guys use, if anything, to track? Do you use any apps? Do you use anything like that?
I use Flow.
Oh, yeah.
But in saying that, I use it, and then sometimes I actually don't log my period, or I actually consistently use it.
Haven't you? And then also, it's another thing you've got to do. Do men have to track something
No.
all the time?
they
Are they
don't.
doing this? Men in the picture, are you doing this? I don't think Keith has ever mentioned that he tracks something every month. I don't think he does. It's just exhausting, isn't it,
is,
being
and
a woman?
I feel like, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I feel like I'm at a certain age and a certain point in my life now, and I feel like I do have like a ticking time bomb with certain things. And I feel like certain people I know came off contraception, started really like tracking their periods, and I felt like, oh gosh, I need to do that as well. So it's like trying
much
to make
pressure.
sure there is that 30-day window, and if it isn't that 30-day window, is that because I have a stoma bag, or is that just because Mother Nature didn't bring it then? And I just think there's all that underlying anxiety anyway with being a woman. And then I think with the stoma bag on top and what they've done to my insides, there's always that added anxiety of, will the things that I want to happen in the future happen as easily as I'd like them to?
And fertility is a big topic, and we had a lot of followers asking about it, and it can affect fertility, and people can really struggle as a result from these surgeries. And they just seem there isn't a massive amount of support out there, and that's where it's great that we have this online community. People can reach out to each other. And you just mentioned about contraception. I mean, I know I've had GP appointments in the past where I've had to tell them that I can't absorb the pill, and that's their job to know. And unfortunately, a lot of GPs don't know that. What's your experiences with things like that?
I'm actually still on the pill, but no one's actually ever told me that I can't absorb it, or like told me like just the precautions that come with having a stoma. I just know whenever I first got my stoma surgery, I was very in the way of wanting to get a reversal. So whenever I actually met with the surgeon discussing this, he was the one that kind of told me all about that, and told me, you know, that after having my stoma surgery, I will have like a small window as to when like maybe get married, have children, and then go for a reversal, or keep my stoma bag, just because he said that it could affect fertility, and it's safer to try and do all this before getting a second surgery. But I was like, it's just hard for someone to put a time on it for you. And even now, like, I know I'm getting married this year, and then hopefully, if we're lucky enough, we could look into having children. But it's not nice knowing that I'm in my own head, I'm like, you know, I maybe have like 2 years left before I should really get the second surgery. And then I'm also going to possibly, if I'm lucky enough, have small children to think about, while also being off my feet after having my second surgery. And it's just so much to process.
Yeah. And I suppose that's kind of like they're dictating your life in a way. That's not any of your choice, is it? And then that's going to have an impact on your relationship, and you've got to have these big discussions. And there's a lot of, there's not really the chance to be spontaneous with anything then, is there? Like you said, it's a ticking time bomb. There's so much pressure, isn't there? So much pressure. And then another question we had from the followers was about post-surgery and confidence. And I mean, there's so much to cover here, you know, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, and getting back out there. I know for you, you're a teacher when you were having the surgery, and that's that, you know, you can't hide behind a desk with that, can you?
No.
You are frontline, you are there. How did you deal with all that?
So the head teacher of the school that I worked at was amazing when I was off, and it was very much, you take the time that you need. And I also felt guilty when I was off for going out and doing things, but he was very much like, no, you need to go out, you need to be in those public spaces, because changing your bag at home or emptying your bag at home is one thing, but doing it in a public space where you've got people outside queuing up. And I was thinking this could happen in my work situation. So he was great. And I went back to work on a phased return, but it was like teaching, you go back, you hit the ground running.
Yeah, you can't just chill for a bit and dip your toe in.
And I remember thinking one day, my bag's full, I haven't marked those books, I'm on duty, when am I going to empty my bag? And it just all got a bit, it all got too much. And I remember like getting quite teary and being like, oh, why do I have to do all this? Why? Because I was looking at other teachers and I was thinking, oh, they don't have a bag of poo attached to them, like, and they've got all these other things. But then I just think, again, you have to get on with it, and like you do have to pull your big girl pants on, and after a while, it does just become the norm, and you learn to cope with it. But I would say, again, like my social media has been a massive like support for me, even being able to help other people, but like other people being able to help you and just sharing, and then people going, oh yeah, I have these same worries as well. And I think, thank goodness it's not just me.
Yeah, and the problem is, everyone who has a stoma, it doesn't mean you're all the same. No one's stoma is the same. The reasons we've all had one is, even if it might be the same disease, it's still going to be slightly different. So there's no one size fits all, is there? Like, some people might have problems with medication because they can't absorb it, whereas other people might be fine. And that's the struggle, isn't it? But then when you do find people that you do find things similar in, isn't it? Like, for instance, we met for coffee a couple of weeks ago. You popped up on my feed. I was like, oh, she's local. And how joyous was that?
It was lovely, wasn't it? It was really lovely. We just nattered non-stop
yeah,
the whole time.
I mean, we talked a lot about, pre-divorce and things like that. It was everything, and it wasn't just stomas. And I think when you connect with people, you assume you're just going to talk about your stoma, but when you get that connection, you end up, it's so much more, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, for instance, like you and Summer's one of our ambassadors.
Yeah.
You're quite close to Summer, aren't you?
She's my stoma sister.
Yes. And how much of when you are together do you actually speak about your stoma?
Like, not even that much now, because we just have that connection. It's just like, we're just the same person copied and pasted, but she's blonde and I'm brunette.
Yeah.
But then, like, there's moments where I'm like, oh God, it's itchy. And she's like, and you've got someone who can go, oh my God, I hate that. Instead of going, oh, is it? When other people don't understand it. And you just meet people that get it. And it's just,
if you want to adjust.
Yeah.
Or, if you want to, get, I don't know, like if if you're out in a restaurant or something, or I don't know, you want to, talking like I'm out all the time. I don't get out much. That was a rarity. Thank you. No, but like, if you just need to do something that isn't typical, but if you're with people like that, it just feels so much better, doesn't it? Like our get-togethers.
Yeah, and you don't have to take extra stoma supplies, because I'm thinking, well, Summer's got us covered. Or I've got us covered one day. You take that small bag that you want to take out. I'll chuck the stoma supplies in. Yeah. So just having 100%. Your people who get you.
How was your confidence when you'd had your surgery, Ayesha? Like, how did it affect your day-to-day life, and what did you do to try and get? I mean, you are at such a completely different stage now, but how did you get to here? I think that's what a lot of people are asking, is finding that confidence.
Yeah, I remember, like, before my surgery, I would have been quite confident. Like, I would have been at the gym constantly, like, watched what I ate. Like, I was confident in my own body. And then after surgery, I was like, oh my goodness, like, I'll never be able to show people my body again. Like, I'll not post a bikini picture. Like, I'll just hide in the house forever. But yeah, I just feel like I didn't think I'd be able to wear tight clothes ever again. Like, I was worried about going back to work. I work in an office, so I was like, I'll not be able to wear office clothes. Like, everything will be baggy. Like, I'll just have to completely change my wardrobe, change my style, everything about me. And then when I felt well enough, and I must have took about 3 months off work, when I was due to going back, I tried on some of my old stuff, and I was like, oh wow, like, this still fits. Like, you can't really see my bag. Like, this is quite comfortable. And then I was like, I could just bring an extra pair of trousers in my car, extra supplies to work in case of a leak, that sort of thing. And then I got into, like, a good mindset of being like, I can do this. Like, this is, like, adaptable. But I do remember my first week back to work, I actually had a leak in the office that day. Went to the disabled toilet, and I was like, what do I do? So I had to, like, just do a full change. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to have to, like, grin and bear it, like, just pretend I can just continue on with the day. And it kind of does set me back, but I think you need to have that experience to kind of know how you're going to deal with it. So, but luckily enough, like, I do remember after my surgery, like, stoma nurses, doctors, everyone was like, be prepared to have leaks during the night. I don't know about you guys, but I've never had a leak overnight. I feel like my stoma isn't very active at night, so I can probably get a good 70 hours sleep without emptying it. And one of my questions actually on Instagram from one of the followers was how to get a good night's sleep without any leaks, which I actually can't relate to, but I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah.
I'd love a full night's sleep.
Me too. That again, that's something that's so different for everyone. Like, I'm in your band, but you guys completely opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up at like 4 o'clock every morning emptying the bag. So it's very, very rare for me to make it through to like 6 o'clock before I'm having to get up. But, it's just part of an evening routine now. Had a couple of leaks at night time fairly early on, but fortunately not since then. But it's kind of waking up with that pressure on your tummy.
And I suppose that, I don't know, I like that fear of, oh my God, it's massive. Oh my God, it must have leaked. Oh my God. And then
rush to the loo.
You're like, I'm just going to touch that. I'm just going to see if it's wetness, I'm going to die. And then you're, just, oh my God, it's fine. Or like, say, if I'm having a cut with Luke and I'm like, oh my God, is it on him? Is it on him? Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to, and then it's fine. Like, it's, oh God. Yeah,
I can't even like remember the last time I had a full night's sleep. Like I'm sat here now with raging jealousy, but so happy for you. I think it is. I have to change my routines throughout the day to try and help with that. So I will try and not eat after 6 o'clock at night. But then again, saying that, life gets in the way.
What if you get the midnight munchies?
Exactly.
What do you do then?
I want a cup of tea while I'm watching the Traitors,
and a biscuit.
And it goes out the window. But I do things to try and stop it. But again, I feel like I've just learned to cope with the fact that I get up quickly in the night. I am thankful that I get back to sleep quite quickly. And it's just not like a quick run to the toilet, empty, back to sleep.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and I suppose those moments where so I've got a 1-year-old and if I'm up in the night with him, then he sleeps sometimes through the night, sometimes he doesn't. But I will empty my bag if I'm awake anyway, because I'm like, well, at least then I know I shouldn't have to get up again. But there's that kind of half awake bag emptying that's always a wild ride, isn't it? When you're like stumble into the toilet, you're like, trying to I suppose talk yourself to trying to open your eyes enough to just even open it properly and not get it on the floor and to get it in the toilet. And
then not have that extra level of anxiety that you're like, I haven't had enough sleep. Tomorrow I'm not going to be able to function. Oh my goodness, my mind's going to have brain fog in work. And I just think, it's like another thing to worry about. But I think, again, you just learn to cope with it.
Yeah. I mean, we touched upon clothes there a bit. I mean, how about you guys? Has your sense of fashion and the way you dress changed since you've had your surgery?
I feel like I've maybe come full loop. When I had my surgery, I binned everything. I was too scared to wear my jeans. I binned them all. Now I look back and I'm like, wish I still had them.
Oh,
because I feel like I've gone on like a journey where I've tried baggy and then started to come back, and I'm like, no, I'm going to wear now what I want to wear, not what I think I should wear with a stoma. Whereas my stoma pretty much decided what I wore at the beginning, but now I wear what I want to wear.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have come full circle. Yeah. But it was a struggle.
Dressing for the day you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that kind of psyche.
Yeah, I definitely after the surgery, spent a lot of time in leggings and big baggy jumpers and thought that was going to be my wardrobe forever.
And look at you now.
Well, but it took quite a bit of time. Yeah. And like you, I threw away everything thinking, well, I'll never wear that again. And there are some things that I still wouldn't feel comfortable in. I feel like I'm probably always going to be in a high-waisted bikini now, but then I am a lady of a certain age now, so I might be in that space anyway. There's some things, but most of my clothing are completely back to how I would have dressed before, or at least being open to anything I would have worn before.
No, and some people kind of find that in some ways they have more confidence than before they had their stoma.
I found
is anyone like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I had 2 cesareans with my 2 children.
Okay.
And my stoma bag actually covers up my cesarean scar, or at least part of it.
Jammy.
So I'm like, well,
Did you pay him? Did it just, that was luck?
I think it sort of detracts from it. Yeah. Before I had the stoma bag, I was worried about my cesarean scar. Now I've got a stoma bag.
So at least you're worried.
Nobody notices the cesarean scar. It's definitely the stoma bag that takes precedence. So it's made me less worried about lumps and bumps in the wrong places because that is the main event.
Yeah. But it takes so much time, doesn't it, to get to that point?
Yeah.
And some people is it fair I think there are some people that take years, like some people just don't fully get there, and that's okay.
And I feel like on social media as well, I feel like people would look at my page and be like, wow, she doesn't care, she just goes out. But I do have those thoughts. Who am I going out with? So my confidence, I think, goes up and down depending on who I'm going out with. I mean, I was petrified of my fiance's friends finding out. That was the worst. They were people that I didn't want to know, not because they would say anything, but because I felt embarrassed of how Zach would feel with people knowing. And he didn't care. But it's funny that now, even if we go out with certain people, I will choose to wear something that if my bag does fill up, I can hide it a bit more. Whereas if I'm really comfortable around people, I don't give it a second thought.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've got married, engaged. Weddings this year. Yes, wedding next year. And we were all in relationships when we had our surgeries. But unfortunately, there are people that, I mean, I think there's a lot of chat on support groups where there are people in relationships where they're not accepted for their stoma. And I know you three, that wasn't the case for you guys. It's all very positive. But it still doesn't mean that it wasn't difficult for you. And it hasn't taken you some work and some time but yeah, after your surgery, I mean, how did it, if it did change things, and did you have a conversation about that and how it would work?
I remember whenever I found out I was getting the surgery, my fiance, he was at work and he was coming up to see me that evening, and we were in the process of getting our house. Mortgage had been approved. We were literally waiting on the date to move in. So he came up to hospital that evening, and I said, like, at that time we had been together maybe 5 years. And I said, like, you know, if you want to leave me now, I totally understand. Like, there's no bad blood. Like, I just felt in that moment like so worthless. I was like, if you don't want to move me, I totally understand. I was like, I know we're in the process of getting a house. Like, I know there's so much going on, but like, this is such a big deal and it's life changing. And I just don't want to hold you back. Like, I don't want you being like, seeing me differently. Like, you know, just having, like, I was going through it and I felt like he was going through it as much as I was.
Yeah.
And then he was like, in that moment, he's like, I can't believe you just said that. Like, it's not a second thought. Like, I still love you for who you are. This isn't going to change anything. And I just think I was so shocked at his reaction. I was like, wow, like maybe I still do have a chance. Like, you know, honestly, I can't even explain like how I felt in that moment. But yeah, I just feel so lucky. Like, even I know at the time, like the doctors and all had said about possibly having like Fertility, and I was like, if that's going to annoy you, like, I'm so sorry. Like, we had bought like mattress protectors, that sort of thing. But he's always been so understanding, and like, there's been times that, I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes if I get a shower, I'm about to step out the shower and my bag just breaks. It just like, yeah. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, then I'll have to go for like a second shower, and then I'll maybe like call him to be like, can you bring me in supplies? Like, that sort of thing. But I feel like he just rides the waves like as much as I do, and he's never like, I just don't feel like he's ever looked at me differently. Or and then even whenever we got engaged, I was like, you do remember I have a stoma bag? Like, if you're putting, I was like, if you're putting a ring on it, like, you know, and we're going to get married, like, this is forever. Like, I'm going to have children while having a stoma bag as well. Like, but yeah, he just like, please wise up. Like, he's like, it's not even worth talking about. And I'm like, oh wow, like, that is just so, yeah. I just think I'm in awe of his reaction, which I think probably does give me more confidence and makes me, just makes the whole journey easier, like the journey of acceptance.
Yeah, and it does affect your partner.
Yeah.
I mean, not physically the way it affects you, but they are part of it and they've got to live it with you.
Yeah.
So it is important to have then discussions. How did you breach those conversations?
Warren, my husband, was just super reassuring through the whole thing, and I'm so grateful for that. It was the challenge was with me more than it was with him, or at least that's how it felt to me, which was good. So yeah, he was very keen to make sure that I felt still wanted, and that he was very supportive, very reassuring about everything. Did things to make sure that I kind of felt comfortable and you know, checked in and that kind of thing. So it was, for me, I found it harder. I found it really difficult. But he was a really good support through all of that for me, which was amazing.
Yeah. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I feel like when I was listening to you then, Ayesha, he was amazing. It was very similar though. I remember saying to my mum, oh my God, I think he's going to leave me. He's going to leave me. And we'd just bought a house as well and we were renovating it. And then just the whole process, he was just there every step of the way. And even when I used to say, what do you think of me now with a stoma bag? He still to this day says, I love you even more because of your stoma bag, because it's made you again.
No.
We're able to do all the things that we love because of your stoma bag. You're still here because of your stoma bag. I'd never hate something that kept you alive. But I do get so many messages asking about, when I've got a new boyfriend, when should I tell them? And I will admit I struggle answering them because I had such an amazing support there. But one piece of advice I do give is I found the transition into living with a stoma bag with Zach easier because of the openness and the conversations. Yeah. I chose to have those conversations and I brought it up a lot and it became normal very quickly.
Yeah.
And so my one piece of advice for someone who has a new partner is to be open and honest and talk about it. I'd say from the get-go, because you don't want it to feel like something that you're hiding. It shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't feel like a hidden, embarrassed secret. It should just feel it's you, it's your normal, and anyone who is the right person won't even bat an eyelid at it.
Yeah, but unfortunately as well, I think when you do have something life-changing like this, it can also highlight people that aren't
Absolutely
the right person. And, you know, I've talked about, I was married before and that it showed that person wasn't the right person. And I won't go into too much detail, but I credit my stoma for shining a light on that and getting me to where I am now with someone who is what sounds like your people. But I did date with a stoma as a single mum, and I did find that a bit, how do I do this? The apps, my God, the apps. I mean, did you guys ever, you weren't doing the apps, did you? You got to skip past that. My God.
Thank goodness.
The apps. And for when I felt way too old to be on the apps. And then when you're a single mum, you feel like, oh my God, no one's going to want to bat an eyelid. But luckily I met Luke in work, so it was fine. But I did dip my toe in the apps. And if for people that, you know, people were saying about dating and stuff, and they've asked me before, I said, just put it on your profile. You know, it's such a daunting thing to potentially want to tell someone new. And if you put it on your profile, you've done it. You know, they can talk to you about it if you're open to doing it. And I think I even put my Instagram handle on it and just said, look, I'm an ostomate. This is my page. That's it. You know, and if people didn't want to know or it wasn't their thing, bye-bye. And it really does sort out the frogs. Yeah. It really does. Now I'm going to go over to intimacy. And for the men's specials, they really did, you know, share a lot and they were quite vulnerable with it. But I suppose as a woman, we have different tools to work with. So we're not going to have the same things going on. But that first time you're intimate with your partner after surgery, just, you know, the things that are going through your mind and how you navigate that. I mean, what advice would you have? That's a massive, massive question, I know, but...
I was terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
I think there was the mental aspect where I still didn't feel like me. I didn't ever think I'd be able to feel sexy again because I had a bag of poo attached to my tummy. And then there was the physical side where I didn't know if I was going to hurt myself because I hadn't had the conversation with any professional that said, look, you can become intimate after 6 weeks. So I kind of went on the fact that I wasn't allowed to drive a car for 6 weeks. So I feel like that told me I probably shouldn't. Yeah, right. Okay. I shouldn't have sex if I can't drive a car for 6 weeks. Then I shouldn't have sex for 6 weeks. And I just remember thinking, I don't know if I wouldn't say I enjoyed the first time I did it after surgery because there was so much going on in my head. But yeah, I think just the one piece of advice I would say is like, like I was so open about how I was feeling with Zach, and we were like having conversations throughout the whole thing, and we were like giggling at certain points. And I just think that like it's a human normal thing to do, but you've got all these added bits, and just to be really like open and honest about how you're feeling.
Yeah. What about you, Jo?
I think for me, I'd been quite poorly for quite a while beforehand. And so that brought its own challenges anyway. And so when I had the stoma, having a bag was a different challenge, you know, which I had all sorts of feelings about in all sorts of different ways, you know, your relationship with food and your body image, your body confidence. So it was another thing. It was another kind of challenge to get over. But it was just a sort of different challenge to the challenge that we'd had for the several months leading up to that, where I'd just been really poorly. So it was a slightly different thing to navigate. But again, just being open, I found it difficult to talk about. I found it difficult to approach. Warren was really good at approaching it and how he raised it and would help and support me. So that just made such a difference. But it's daunting. Like you say, you're not sure what's going to hurt. I think the nervousness, the anxiety about what might hurt makes it more likely that it does then. So kind of finding a way through that. But it just, you know, we'd been together for quite a long time. We were already married. We had that really close bond. We were able to be quite open with each other, and that really made a difference. And he'd seen me really poorly in the lead up, so he's like just quite grateful that I had the bag that was going to make me better.
There you go, similar thing. What about you guys?
I just feel like after my surgery, like mentally, I just was in a bit of a negative place. So like I was like, you know what, like I have zero sex drive, like no ambition to do that whatsoever. But kind of like yourself, like I was like, I'll just give it a few weeks. And I think initially, like when you think about it, you're like, what if it's sore? Like what if something happens to my bag during it? Like, but again, like me and my fiance, like we were open about all this and had plenty of conversations. But then I got into my own head too, where I was like, I just think I look so weird with a stoma bag. So I was like, what if he finds me like really unattractive? And I was definitely in my own head more than like I should have been.
But perfectly normal and understandable, and it takes people such a different amount of time to get to a place where they're ready to have sex. And if you're really tense and you're really nervous, it's going to make it not as enjoyable at all. It might hurt. Your body needs to be ready and wanting mentally as well for it to be a pleasurable experience. So I mean,
and while you're still recovering from the surgery, you're still tired, you're still sore, you're still getting over all of that as well. You just,
I mean, you're not up for a marathon, are you?
Not really.
You're not
no.
like, come on, let's go. Here we go. We got some time. Let's sort. Yeah, it's not going to work like that, is it? And I think one of our fellow ambassadors said before in a podcast that one advice they were given was to wear crotchless underwear. So if you don't want your bag out and you want it concealed and supported, but you don't want to have to deal with moving underwear and trying to navigate all that, I think it's a brilliant tip. It's a great idea to be able to have access, have your bag secure. I mean, I thought that was a golden tip. So she knows who she is, and I won't say her name, but yes, that was a diamond tip. And I mean, what about lingerie or support wear or anything like that? Or I know for me, I have my bag folded and tucked up all the time.
Do you?
So yeah, I don't like the feeling of it down anywhere, or, you know, I've had 2 C-sections as well, so it ain't flush down there in terms of there's a lot of bumping going on. So yeah, I don't want my bag added to that, so I keep it in half. So with intimacy, it's kind of, I think for me, I don't tend to think about it as much because it's weird. I can't feel it as much because it's where the base plate is. So do you guys, you know, is lingerie a big part of that, or do you wear support wear, or are you like, go with the wind?
I'd say the only thing that I'm really conscious about now is if my bag is full.
Yeah.
So if I feel anything in filling up at all, quick dash to the toilet, and then I'm ready to go. Yeah, that's the one thing for me, because I don't like the way my bag looks if it is full. I only like the way, I will only ever post a photo of it online when it's empty. But I am honest about that online, because I don't like the way that it looks when it's full on me. So that's something that I'm still conscious about. So if something happens spontaneously, it's always like a quick tap, maybe a quick dash, and then I'm back.
Yeah. And if you've had that open conversation with your partner, then they're going to know that's a part of it, and that's all good. You know, I suppose if you I don't know, if you were new to dating and you were seeing someone, and then that intimacy became a thing, and it was all new, and they were suddenly seeing you go off and all this, it would be quite, you know, it would really put a dampener on things, wouldn't you? So that conversation is so important. What about you guys?
I don't really think I don't enjoy wearing like support wear, or even like, I know I should when I'm in the gym or running. I don't really like wearing a support belt. I just find it makes me itchy. If I sweat more, it just gets...
And it does for some people. And I think when you're on social media and you see these adverts for waistbands and you see people posting with them, you could assume you have to wear one. But you don't. And, you know, you don't. There's no law. There's no whatever. There might be some advice for certain exercises that it would help to, but you know your body. And it's all relative to the person, isn't it? What about you? Because, I mean, you came onto Instagram with a stoma, but with fitness in mind. So how about you with all that?
So for me, I much prefer my bag not moving too much, and if it does fill up during the day, there being some kind of pressure on it that stops it from getting too large or looking too large under my clothes. So when I'm working out, I do always wear support wear. When I first had my surgery, I used to wear it all the time.
The high pants or the bands?
The high pants. So the bands, I felt just were never in the right place. I put them on in the right place, and they'd move up or they'd move down, and they just didn't stay where they ought to be. So that felt like a faff. But the pants I've found really helpful. So it gave me confidence moving, you know, when I first had the surgery. But now I only use them in the gym. But I do generally prefer to have, you know, something that holds...
Clamp it down
a little bit.
Clamp it down.
Exactly.
Right. So as we've already said, Jo, you're already married, but we've got brides to be here. Exciting this year. It's very exciting. And we can't not have this women's episode without talking about being a bride with a stoma bag, because, you know, not everyone shares about that. And I know, Poppy, you've shared a lot on your stories about the process of choosing a dress and how you've gone about that. But so you've chosen your dress.
I have.
How did you navigate that, and how much did your stoma bag influence your dress?
So the day that I was going wedding dress shopping, I was an emotional mess, because I felt like an idea of myself in a wedding dress pre-surgery was completely different to what I thought that I would have to pick now because of my stoma bag. I think that I would have picked something very different, maybe a different style, a different material, but I was aware that on one of the most important days of my life, I didn't want my stoma bag to be a main part of it. Having said that, once I got to the wedding dress shop, all those worries and anxieties and decisions that I thought I'd have to make, they just disappeared, because I was just so in the moment, and I was picking things out, and I kind of thought, no, go on, try it on. And I was trying things on. And then in the end, I didn't really even give my stoma bag a second thought. I put the dress on. I felt amazing in it. And then I think it was either my sister or my mum was like, is it okay around Bruce? We called the stoma Bruce.
Boy, yeah.
Is Brucey boy okay in that dress? And I was like, oh God, yeah. Yeah, he's fine.
Hey.
And then I thought, oh my God, thank goodness my stoma, I don't want to say didn't ruin it, but didn't take over, because before I went, I felt like, oh, I'm not going to pick a dress that I would like because of my stoma bag. But it didn't happen like that at all. And I feel like it was just a really lovely moment. And again, because of how far I've come with my confidence in my stoma, it wasn't something that was at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah. And at the moment, it seems to just be a trend everywhere that people are having 2-3 dresses, you know, for each section of the day. Are you guys having more than one dress?
I think I maybe will in the evening time. The dress I've picked, I don't know. Like I had went to a few different dress shops, and then the last one where I picked my dress, I went for a style that I could have seen myself in before surgery. And the girls in the shop, like I said, like, I love this dress, but I have a stoma. And she was like, you need to stop that. She was like, there was a girl in this morning who has a stoma bag and went for a dress she never thought she'd be able to go for because of her bag. And I was like, oh wow. And then she actually knew another girl that I know from home who has a stoma bag, and she was just so understanding, so helpful, so caring. And I was like, you know what, like, this is my dress. And it was just a lovely experience. And I actually think myself and Poppy must have been looking around dresses at the same time, because I had messaged Poppy and I was like, are you letting your stoma like dictate the style you're going for? And she was like, you'll know when you know. And that was like really good advice. So luckily, like, the previous shops I would have probably went for a dress that I thought I would have had to go for due to my bag, but the shop that I picked my dress in is exactly what I wanted. And I'm not as worried about my bag, because like Poppy, my mum was like, is it comfortable? And I was like, yeah. Like, you know, you kind of forget it's there, which is good.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it? How about emptying throughout the day? Have you thought about that?
My sister, my maid of honour, she's doing the job of emptying. So we think we're just going to hitch the dress up, lean over the toilet, she's going to empty it. And
you're going to lean, so are we on about straddling and going like in that way, or how are we?
I think we're just going to go whatever feels right. Okay. Whatever is going to make sure it doesn't go on the dress. Dress
you have at the bottom. Obviously you can't say, because Zach will probably be watching this and you want it to be a surprise.
But she's going to take one for the team and she's going to do it.
Yes. So her and Bruce are going to be besties by the end of the day. I suppose because of the colour of it, that gives me a bit of anxiety. And I wear the black Moda V, and I feel really confident with the black Moda V. And I know as soon as I put on a beige coloured bag, I feel completely different. I don't have that confidence. It feels very medical to me, and that's just my opinion. Because when they came out with the black colourway, I was, oh my God, it really changed everything for me. My confidence, the way I felt in myself. I was part of the trials for it, and I remember doing the videos for it, and I was really emotional on the videos, because I was like, oh my God, I don't feel horrible. I don't feel as self-conscious. And I'm thinking, can I still wear that with a wedding dress? But then I suppose, what colour do you wear?
I always wear a black bag because I feel more confident in it. And I didn't even think about it going wedding dress shopping, and I kept a black bag on. And I remember as I was trying dresses on, I said to the woman, I really didn't think this through. Like, I've got beige underwear on and with a massive black stoma bag. And she was like, I think it's a good thing, because you'll be able to see where your stoma is placed in the dresses. And if I'm honest, you couldn't even see it.
No.
On the day, will I wear a black one? Probably not. Just so, I don't know, just so I know that you can't, if any flashes or anything, do you know what I mean? Like with a black bag underneath. But yeah, I think it was actually a good idea to go wedding dress shopping with a black bag on, because you could see it through, you could see where it was, where the lumps and bumps would show. And
I suppose one thing I thought of for myself is, should I go with a half full bag or something just to see how it feels?
I did.
You did?
I did. Oh. Yeah, it wasn't full, but I didn't. We had lunch before, and I remember thinking, well, I'm going to eat on the wedding day, so I'm just.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah. How are you going to last till the evening and you're dancing? You need to,
But I thought it's going to fill up on my wedding day, so let's just leave it. And again, I felt so embarrassed in front of the lady changing, because I hate the way my stoma bag looks like that. But then again, you couldn't really, it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's such great advice though, to go when your bag's not flat, because I think psychologically you think it needs to be flat to try on a wedding dress, but actually that's not the point of it all, is it? You need to allow it to fill up, and you need to still be comfortable. What about you with yours? Like, what's your game plan for emptying and navigating that day with your bag?
I feel like anytime I'm out or I'm anywhere like socialising, I literally empty my bag nearly every time I pee.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, you do that as well. Yeah.
I just feel like you feel more confident doing that. Yeah. So I probably will try and do it as much as I can on the wedding day. But yeah, I'm probably going to have someone to be nominated bag emptier that day as well. It's going to be a bit hard doing it yourself while trying to hold a wedding dress.
I know.
And not, maybe get like makeup around your dress as well as.
And God forbid splash
emptying the bag. Yeah.
God, so many things to navigate. So many
Think
things.
about that one.
Oh, sorry. You'll be fine. I mean, in terms of alcohol, because alcohol can be a big part of weddings, and I'll ask you this as well, Jo. It's a long day. I can imagine it be. I don't know what happened at yours, but I doubt you're thinking about hydration as much as you normally would, because you're so immersed in the day and it's your day and there's so many people and all that. And I mean, yeah, were you suitably hydrated?
Well, I didn't. When I got married, I didn't have my stoma and I wasn't poorly.
Yeah.
So I was suitably hydrated for the
Fabulous.
state that I was in. I had a lovely day, hydrating quite a lot, but with all the wrong things. So yeah, that wasn't really a thing for me. But I think now I would have to be more aware of it. I don't find that alcohol necessarily makes a massive impact for me. So it wouldn't worry me overly. You want to be able to enjoy yourself, don't you? So it's whatever you need to do to enjoy yourself and feel comfortable. For some people, that might mean cutting down or avoiding the alcohol because actually I'll feel more comfortable because I won't have the consequence. For me, there would be less consequence. So.
And I don't know about, because we're older than the girls, but my hangovers are terrible now.
Yes, exactly.
They are way worse now I'm older. They're days long. I mean, what about you two, if you've had a tipple?
Anxiety for me. It's the anxiety the day after. Even if I've had like a couple of glasses of wine, it's not worth it. So I actually think on the wedding day, I don't think I will drink very much. A, because I want to remember it all.
There is that.
And B,
you've paid for it, so you want to
get a lot of money. And B, I don't want to wake up having any sort of anxiety. I just want to wake up and think, oh my goodness, I'm married. I had the best day ever.
Yes.
So,
what about you?
I don't know. I feel like since getting my Stoma bag, I don't know if it's because I've most of my colon removed, but I feel like I get drunk a lot quicker.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if my body just can't absorb it the same, but I do feel like alcohol does go to my head
that's
quicker.
going to save you money.
Yeah.
And you'll be on your merry way much faster. But I mean, I think like normally the advice would be like try and have a glass of water in between each drink. Have your electrolytes. I mean, who here has electrolytes?
I do have electrolytes.
You have electrolytes.
Yeah, I do have electrolytes.
I
don't know if it makes a difference, to be honest, but I do it because I know it's a good thing to do. And
I just can't bear trying a million different ones and the flavours and that again. I find that overwhelming because there's so many different ones.
I pop Dioralites.
Yes, you do. I've seen it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the way that you should do it. I'm pretty sure it's not, but I just try and do it quickly so that, because I don't really like the taste of electrolytes. So yeah, I just try. But again, I am very aware. Like if I go out for a glass of wine, I will have either a glass of water or I'll put Diorite in some water, or even like a full fat Coke just to like boost the sugar levels. Just I think being aware of it and knowing if your body is feeling a little dehydrated.
I actually found on my wedding day there's so much going on as well that actually drinking and eating and stuff, I just was too busy to worry too much about that, so I think I did less of it than I might have done if it was someone else's wedding that I was at.
Yes. I suppose the one thing I'm worried about is that because I don't think about my bag unless it's very full or if I'm going for a wee and I'll empty at the same time, that sometimes I'm so distracted by the kids and what I'm doing, sometimes I leave it too late. And then it's past the point of no return. And I have had leaks because of that. And that's human error. And I suppose I'm worried about on my wedding day that I feel like I need to have alarms, or I need, like you've got designated people, to be like, can you remind me to check my bag? Because I feel like I'm not going to remember.
But I feel like that is like your bridesmaids, maids of honour's job on the day.
Yes.
Like you are the main event.
Oh, God.
So if they need to come and remind you to have a wee.
How do you feel about being the bride? Are you buzzing for it, or are you like, oh God?
No, I am. I'm so excited.
Bring it on. I'm the queen for the day. Oh, gosh. No, exciting stuff. Now, one thing we've got on the table is we've got Jo, who's had Barbie butt surgery. And then we've got you guys, which have had certain conversation with your surgeons and how that might impact you on the future. But your recovery, and it goes without saying that it's completely different for everyone. Yeah. Some people really struggle. Some people, it's manageable. But what was your experience?
So I had the surgery, and about a week later, it became clear that my wound wasn't reconnecting properly. It wasn't healing properly. because of where it is, it's a very difficult place to keep still and not put pressure on. And so my wound just kind of came apart, and then I had various infections and things along the way. So I had to have a pico pump to drain it, and it turned out to be quite a long process of. I became very, very friendly with the nurses who I saw every day for quite a few months, because they were dressing and packing my wound for a long time.
And that was every day?
It was every day, and that was quite exhausting. So it was visiting the GP surgery in the morning during the week, which was absolutely fine, but at weekends, potentially going to the hospital if there was a space, but often it was waiting for the district nurses to arrive, who were all lovely, but they would arrive any time between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And so you end up spending all of your weekend waiting for the nurse to arrive. Realistically, I knew I was probably going to be quite far down their list, because there'd be other people who needed help getting out of bed, getting fed, all that kind of thing. Yeah. But they could never just tell me, we won't be there till the afternoon, So it just felt like a lot of waiting around. You couldn't go anywhere for the weekend. I was desperate to go and visit my dad, but you just couldn't. I couldn't be that far away. Yeah. So that was, it was a really challenging time, the recovery from that. Despite that, I'm still really glad that I had it. Now that I have recovered from all of that, I feel so much better. I don't get the sort of phantom pains anymore. I obviously don't have any discharge, and it feels like all the things that were inside that I had to worry about are now dealt with. Yeah. It just was a bit of a longer process to get to that point than I was hoping that it was going to be. And I wasn't really prepared for that.
And how was your mental health during that time? Because it was a year, wasn't it, that you had to have that wound dressing redone every day. That's a long time. Yeah,
it was a long time. And I think my mental health would have been worse if I'd known that was what it was likely to be.
Oh, okay.
But fortunately, nobody told me. So I think there were various people. My auntie's a nurse, and she looked after me in the first week after my surgery. And it was her that first noticed that there was something not right. Yeah. And she really supported me to get seen quite quickly. Otherwise, I would have taken a lot longer to go and see anybody about it. Yeah. And I think she had a really good idea that it was going to be quite a long time before I was healed. But not knowing that, you're just dealing with the day in, day out. I'd looking back, it was really challenging. There were definitely days where I was done. I was tired and fed up, and feeling a bit sorry for myself of, why do I have to keep doing this? Yeah. But, I generally quite a positive person, and I think that's kind of helped me to deal with a lot of it. But yeah, definitely some really challenging times. I remember, turning up at the GP surgery and just bursting into tears, and, the nurses giving me a hug and then occasionally sending me off to the hospital as well. I remember arriving at the hospital for the third time in a couple of weeks, and one of the staff just came and immediately gave me a hug as soon as I walked in. They were like, I can't believe you're back again. And that was lovely, but also made me think, oh, crikey, they think this is really bad. I think when you're in it, you kind of don't appreciate. You normalise things so quickly.
Yes, you do.
Through all of it.
Yeah, and actually, if you were telling all this to someone who didn't even know what any of this was, they'd find it shocking, probably, and wonder how on earth you are so positive.
I remember that one of the nurses saying to me, the only reason that you're carrying on, because I was back at work and,
I can't believe you worked during all that as well. That blows my mind.
It was, but I had no concept of it. I couldn't see it. So you don't really...
Do you think that helped?
I think it did, because she said to me, if this was on your leg and you could see it, the nurse said to me, if it's on a leg and you could see it, you wouldn't expect yourself to be doing all the things you're doing now, and neither would anybody else. But because you can't see it, you just feel like you should can and should keep going.
Did you ever get a mirror and...
It was covered. It was covered the whole time with a massive dressing. So
you didn't really...
No idea at all. The nurse did once kind of use her hands to show me the size of it, which was quite alarming because I'd absolutely no idea. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't have any concept of it at all.
Gosh. And I mean, you've had some conversations about, family planning and things like that. And everyone's got different experiences, like we've already said, but surgery, it is on the cards for you, isn't it?
Yeah. And I do feel like the more I think about it, the more terrified I feel. I just feel like it's always going to be a long process for recovery once you get it. But yeah, so my surgeons basically said to get married, have children, and then start thinking about that next surgery, because it can affect fertility in so many cases. And I have been told as well, if I do fall pregnant, I will be getting a C-section just due to having the stoma. It's more, they just say it's better to do that so that they can keep a closer eye, there'll be more checks, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a lot to think about.
And you'd be consultant led?
Yeah.
Because I know for me, I didn't have a stoma with my first child, but I had one with my second. But because of surgeries as a baby, I was told you can't give birth naturally. And it's funny because I think some people might assume, oh, that's great because you don't have to go through childbirth. But you're like, well, actually, that hurts because that's been taken away from me, and maybe I would have liked to have the option, and maybe so that made me quite feel very sad, to be honest. And that whole, there's only one way this kid's coming out, and what if that goes wrong, and then what happens then? And when our insides are the way they are, it's very daunting. I found the whole thing quite daunting, especially when I knew how many surgeries I'd had, and that there's this poor little baby that's growing in amongst all of this chaos and this scar tissue and the adhesions. And I had a lot of adhesion pain during my pregnancy in the first trimester, and it was like sharp stabbing pains in my belly, and I was petrified because I thought, oh my God, I'm losing the baby, there's something wrong. But then it was the stoma nurses actually that I called, which sounds a bit daft, but I thought if I ring a midwife or someone, they're not going to have a clue because they're not, it's not their expertise, having a woman who's had lots of bowel surgery, who's having a C-section, who's got Hirschsprung's disease, who's got a stoma. And it was the stoma nurses that said, when we see people with stomas that are pregnant, that is normal. But then I was never told that when I went for the scans and when I went down the pregnancy care route. You're not told all these things. So it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. Information overload.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know if I will have to have Barbie butt surgery. I've been told that it potentially is something that could happen in the future, but my surgeon has said that he is not performing any surgeries on me until I have started a family. And I feel like that now has added a little bit of pressure, because there's that extra pressure on the ticking time bomb of what if the symptoms get really bad again, and then it's something out of my control. I think I just hate the feeling that it's again something that's out of my control, because it was out of my control to have my stoma, then it could be out of my control something next. And I remember my consultant saying, because I said, what do people do when they're pregnant with a stoma? Do they give birth naturally? Do you have a C-section? And he's kind of like, well, you just see how you go, and then the surgeon will probably decide what's best for your body, because he has opened it up. He's the one that's been there. And then I thought, again, it's out of my control.
Yes.
But I guess in the long run, as long as that baby comes out healthy and happy, and I'm still healthy and happy, whatever's best for my body, then I'll just be grateful. But I won't lie. And if I'd be lying if I said that fertility and getting pregnant with a stoma is not something that I worry about on the daily. And then I think that anxiety then contributes to like flares in my rectum, because I am overly anxious. And then I sit back, and if I look back and I think this is like a vicious circle, I do need to just chill and just trust that my body will carry me through.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as women, we are built with these ticking time bombs, aren't we? Do you think do men have this thought? Do they think, oh, I'm getting to that age now, do you think I should worry about getting pregnant or worry about my fertility? Or do they, we've got rock star men that are in their 70s and, that are having babies with these really young women. And are they worrying about that? Are they, I don't know.
Is it men or women, or is it just like society that are putting the pressure on us, and we're more susceptible to having the pressure as women put on us, and it kind of goes over men's heads? I'm not sure, but I just think that I see other people online who are younger than me having a baby, and then why do I automatically go to, I'm behind? Why am I behind?
Yes.
Whereas maybe men don't think like that because there isn't that pressure. I don't know.
Well, that may be one where we need half men, half women. We need a bit of a rally. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've covered most of the questions that our followers sent in. But I suppose the last thing I want to finish with you all is, what advice would you give to women that are going into stoma surgery and are thinking about all these things? Oh my gosh, how's it going to affect X, Y, Z? Is there anything you wish you'd been told, or anything you wish you'd done differently? Jo, I'll start with you.
So I think that for me, the most important message is to allow yourself time, and that your amount of time will be different to everybody else's amount of time. And to just have trust and have faith in the fact that, you know, you will get there. You'll get to a position of being more comfortable, being more confident. It all starts to feel so normal, really relatively quickly. And, you know, I'm in a place now where majority of the time I'm not aware of my bag. I'm not aware of my stoma. I don't really feel it. But I remember at the very beginning being super sensitive to every movement, every little feeling. And it's just not something that comes into my mind for most of the day anymore. So just being aware to kind of give yourself time around that. And in terms of the fertility and the pregnancy as well, I think pregnancy is such a complicated, daunting time for everybody. You know, I had my children before I had colitis, before I had my stoma. But it's a complicated, difficult time for lots of women, lots of complications. Having the stoma and having the surgeries will add another layer of complication to that. But it's kind of not to give yourself too much of a hard time around that, because everybody else is facing some level of challenge too, and finds it a difficult process. So.
Yeah. What about you?
I just think it's important to definitely allow yourself to feel all the emotions that you want to feel. Like post-surgery, I would have been so hard on myself if I got myself into a negative slump. I would have been like, I should be happier, I should be more grateful that I'm still here. But it's definitely just a journey of accepting your new body and accepting the new norm. But yes, the best thing I done definitely was share my story online. I feel like the best advice you get is from other people who have stoma bags or who've been through it. There's definitely not enough advice from doctors, nurses, stoma nurses. I don't think you fully understand it until you experience it yourself. But yeah, I'm looking back now, I'm so glad with how far I've came. But it would have been nicer at the time to have more advice. But I have said before that I'm lucky to have known 2 girls locally who had stoma bags. So I literally reached out to them straight away and they literally kept me going. But yeah, it's nice to be able to speak to people who relate to exactly everything you're going through.
Yeah, it's the power of connection, isn't it? And do any of you know anyone in your immediate life that's had a bag or knew what one was?
No.
It's the first time I chatted about it properly was with you a couple of weeks ago.
See, and now you're on a podcast chatting to all of us. And what about you, Poppy?
I'd say that a quote that I always stick by is recovery is not linear. So for me, I sometimes do give myself a hard time because I think you've done so well for so long. Why are you feeling upset now? And I've really noticed it with the next transitions in life, like getting married and thinking about starting a family. Those are huge life decisions for anyone. And I think just to give myself that acknowledgement, it's okay to get upset still. You're 4 years on, but you've been through a heck of a lot. And it's not linear. It's going to be a roller coaster, but having a support system around you and just being able to chat things through is the best.
Yeah. And it's changing all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you might switch one problem out for something else, but I think, and there's a lot of power in trying to tell yourself that the person stood next to you that probably, might not have a bag, they'll have something going on, might not be the same thing, but they will. Well, ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for this time together. We've covered so much, and thank you so much. It's been invaluable, and I hope you had the best time.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.